Welcome to our conversation for Short Stories 1 in the 35th Annual Washington, D.C. International Film Festival. I'm Juliette Birch, and on behalf of myself, the festival, and my co-curator, Linda Blackaby, I'm pleased to introduce filmmakers Hazel McKibbin from Doublespeak and Carlos Lennon from The Longest Dream I Remember. Both of your films appeared in this year's Sundance Film Festival. That's fantastic. Congratulations to both of you. And thank you so much for taking the time to be with us today. Just to do a brief summary of each of the films, in Doublespeak, a woman meets superiors to discuss her sexual harassment complaint against a colleague. Her case is dismissed and her feelings about coming forward are treated dismissively. In The Longest Dream I Remember, a young woman decides to leave her village in Mexico and leave behind her search for her missing father to pursue her own future. I thought I'd start with just the question about the origin of your stories. And Hazel, I know that your story is based on personal experience. Could you tell us some more about that?
Thank you so much, Juliette, for having me. I feel very lucky to be here and talk to you about the film. Yeah, Doublespeak was based on my own experience of reporting sexual harassment in the workplace. Much of the dialogue, especially in the conference room scene, came from a recording that I have of my own very similar meeting. And when it's a student film, I made it in my first year at Columbia, and it was sort of the first, I felt like I had to make it in order to make movies about other things, because it was so very much present in all of my work.
So you feel like this experience was really infusing your life and really needed to come to fruition.
Yeah. The whole thing, of course, all this stuff, it just takes forever. It took me a long time to report it. And then the whole legal aspect of it is long and drawn out. And so it took up a large chunk of my life, I guess, in my early 20s. And it felt like it was a good way to close that chapter, was to make a film about it.
Very interesting. And what was your experience seeing it on screen in your first cut?
The first time I saw it, well, it's funny, I still haven't seen it on a screen larger than my laptop because of COVID and everything. But it's funny. It'll be at Palm Springs at the end of the month, so we'll see it in live. But yeah, when I watched it, it felt like I was finally able to explain how that felt. I'd never been able to verbalize it before, even telling friends or even making the film. And then to see it, the first cut, and we did a lot of work even from that. I was like, all right, this was my experience. And Angela, the lead actress, did such an amazing job of embodying my experience and making it real. In the way that it happened to me, I guess.
It sounds like very intense experience in your student film. That's a starting really strong.
Thank you.
Carlos, could you tell us about the origin of your story? And then also, I'm wondering if you could give a little background on what it means to be disappeared in Mexico for our American audience and how that affects families there.
Yes, well, hi everyone, I'm Carlos. I have to apologize about my English, is quite not the best, but I will try my best here. It's the disappearance, the missing persons here in Mexico. It's a very horrifying experience for a lot of families, because since the war against the drug cartels here in Mexico begin, 2006, 2007, there was a lot of innocent persons living between the struggle that doesn't have anything to do with the cartels or with the police or with army.
Like living in these territories, living in these areas of conflict.
yes, they were living there. We are living there, and this experience is very close to almost everyone here in the north of Mexico. That's the place where I live, and I want to share a little of this painful experience. Not just seeing the persons as a victims of that experience, but trying to rescue the images of the hope, and because I believe inside the hope, inside the silence of these families, like my own family, lives the resistance, lives the political issue that make us try to tell these kind of stories.
Thank you. That is really a in-depth explanation that I think is going to be really helpful to viewers, to add a huge layer to the backstory of your film. Why do you think you chose the short story format? What was in the short story format that allowed you to tell this story in the best way?
Well, I believe that there is a lot of stories out there, and I, in an act of trying to be sincere, I feel that this story have to live in this short format. I believe that cinema is cinema, no matter what is the length of the movie. And I truly believe that this specific story has the elements to exist with her or his own identity in this time schedule, or in this time capsule. And so I decide this because I really believe that that's the time that we need to say this little phrase, this little sentence. With all the love and with all the dignity that we believe that this story have, these kind of stories have in here and everywhere, and yes, I believe that's it.
Do you think poetry? Do you think the short film format is a better format for a poetic statement? Because your film is very poetic.
I believe that maybe that's a possibility. I believe that talking about our story, I believe that we have to tell these very intimate stories in other ways, because we here in my town we live these violent experiences every day, and I believe that we have the right to tell these stories, trying to rescue these other images, these other maybe poetry images that also live with us. Yes, we are here in this war, but we have the right to rescue these other images that also are part of us. Yes, we are the violences, but yes, we also are this contemplation, these silences. I really believe that, and that's the story we make.
Very interesting to talk about rescuing images. I think that's very evocative. Hazel, let's go back to you. Why do you think the short story format was the best format for your film?
Also, I apologize for the thunder. I'm in the middle of a crazy
very dramatic
now. I think the short format, I mean, we made a very deliberate decision for it to be short, and also I would not be interested in making a feature version of Doublespeak, because it's a lot. It's a very intense, heavy, and depressing subject matter, and I think to have it contained within 10 minutes was the best way to present a snapshot of what that was like in a format that's palatable to a viewer. I mean, films are for an audience, and I wanted to communicate that feeling, but I don't know. I don't know that anyone would want to watch that for an hour and a half, and I don't know that I'd want to make it for an hour and a half. It was pretty hard. I mean, it was hard, and yeah. yeah, the short format was perfect for the story.
Something about that story, it's an extraordinary experience that also is treated in there's an ordinariness about it. And that's really powerful, like this shouldn't feel ordinary. But I think there's something about the short time frame that really maintains that extraordinary within ordinary qualities.
Yeah, it's sort of like the afternoon when, the unity of time, place, and action. It was like I said, it stretched over years of my life, but when I was thinking about putting it on screen, I wanted it to feel, to condense all the action and have it feel just like this was. I mean, and it was. It was what it was, and it exists best, I think, in the condensed form.
I think there's an element in each of your films. There's several elements, as I mentioned, that I see in common, and I hope I can frame this question properly so that it won't be too esoteric. But I'll start with you, Hazel, and then we'll go back to Carlos. So you said in an interview you wanted to explore, I think this is really interesting, the gray area between different perceptions of the same events. And I'm wondering if you want to talk about that. I guess I'm interested in breaking down these barriers that we imagine exist. And this is a situation where you feel you're communicating and then you suddenly realize you're not. What do you think is unique about film as a way to explore that hard to define space?
Yeah, I think to me, what I found interesting when I was going through the experience and what I wanted to communicate on film was that I felt one way about what happened. It felt very cut and dry to me, but then having been in this meeting where every aspect of the experience was dissected by a group of people, it was very clear that how wrong that felt to me was not how everybody felt. And sure, there's an element of like inappropriate, but that I think we can blanket level agree on across. Everybody agreed on that. It's like what is okay and not okay, and when the line is crossed, and what's professional and what's not as a moral thing, and then what the legal aspect of it is. And there was a lot of gray in that. It's not that kind of, it wasn't illegal. It felt really wrong to me, but it's not illegal behavior, which is weird. And I think it was important then when making the film to shoot it objectively and, treat each person's experience of that event in a way that didn't judge. So I hope that when I was making the film and when people watch it, it doesn't feel like me as a filmmaker that I was judging any of the lawyer or the two supervisors in that situation, because it's not. I wanted it to be up to the audience to make a decision about how they felt what they felt the morality of the whole thing was, I guess, because it feels more accessible and feels more like a conversation starter as opposed to an ender. I didn't want to be like the ultimate verdict, and more just present how it happened to me and see what other people thought about it when watching.
I think, there's a specific moment when the main character realizes that she's not going to be supported by her supervisor, that where you realize you're in this gray area where the world is not as clearly defined as you expected it to be. I thought you captured that really beautifully. And Carlos, wanted to come back to you. A huge moment like that in your film. I feel like in your film, objective reality seems fluid. And this is in a way similar to Hazel's character. Her character feels like the reality is one way, and it turns out there's no shared perspective on what her reality is. Your film, Carlos, is almost a defiance of the idea that things have a dual nature, they're one way or another. And I'm wondering if you could talk about that a bit. And there was one particular element that was interesting to me, which is this idea of absence and presence, and the lack of space between absence and presence. You've got this father who isn't there, and he's defining the life of the family that's remained in the village. Can you talk about that a bit? That I think that really strikes deep for you, this, dissolving these barriers.
Well, yes, I want to share the experience of living in the present without one or something. I believe that every one of us has this kind of connection with the or this kind of relationship with the present. I want to share that because that's that I live when I live with a lot of families that has a member of their family missing, or disappear. I truly see all the time how we share, the table, the dinner, and suddenly, and we are happy in this moment, in this present, no? But suddenly a presence of the missing persons appears in front of us, or in the form of a silence, of a shadow, or a shadow, or a tiny glimpse of light that emerges somewhere in the bedroom, in the kitchen, and I believe that it's that kind of moments has their own identity and their own value as images in the film form. And I believe that we as filmmakers have this possibility of playing around, going between these two worlds every time, and not just using some kind of special effects or that kind of stuff. Maybe in the most beautiful way, it's like just putting our camera in some space and letting that the time and the actions and the silence transform the frame, and sometimes in this reality, in the naturality of the reality, emerge this other time that is the absence, that is the dream, that is that other part of us. I believe.
Do you want to say something about dreams?
Me?
Yeah.
That's the origin of this story. I have this conversation with a very close friend of mine it's Tania, and her father is missing since the 70s, and she's a very good friend of mine. We were in her house eating breakfast, and I have and I asked her if her sometimes dream with his father, even when she didn't know him, because she borns when days after when her father was kidnapped. And I asked her if her sometimes dream about his father, and she said yes, and she starts saying yes. The longest dream I remember is that, and she told me her dream, and for me that was a very privileged experience to have this kind of conversation, because even when the pain is there, the dream that she told me was all full in hope and rebellion, and she says something to me like it was like, they already take away my father from me. Yeah. They don't gonna take my dreams. They don't gonna take my this moment that yes, it's an illusion, but it's mine. And I really appreciate.
Yeah, and again, it's about that dissolution between boundaries. You've got the dream life and the waking life, and they're really not separate. And how beautifully you've expressed it as, the origin of hope, in a way. Yeah. I wanted to talk briefly about the role of memory in each of your films. Let's go back to Hazel. Do you want to talk about the role that memory plays in your film? And in your case, it's, maybe it's about people remembering an event differently, and it may be about your own memories of your experience and how that relates to the film.
Yeah, certainly. I think for me, yeah, it's based on my memories of and my perception of how a series of events took place. What was pretty important to me was using the truth and keeping very close to what was true. I mean, of course, everybody's truths are different, but the facts of what happened for any scene that included characters other than than Emma, who was representing myself, because I used the real name of my harasser in the film. So anything that was related to the truth felt like it needed to be, and to him felt like it needed to be true. And then the scene of Emma talking to her mother on the phone, that is fictionalized. That didn't happen. I never told my mom as it was going on, but I think it was important to me for it to feel less like a memory and feel true, even though, of course, it's based on my memories of that experience.
Do you think you've stuck pretty rigidly to? I mean, you actually had this transcript. Do you think there's any part of the film that where you wonder, is my memory? Was there a shift in, is my memory influenced by emotions? I'm not quite sure how to articulate this question, but
I know what you mean. I think there was when I was first writing it, because I wrote it based on my memory of the experience. And then when I was going back in and getting really specific with the dialogue, and I went back to this recording that I had, and also that period of my life was so documented, because once I had reported this harassment, I started recording everything that happened that was remotely to do with it, because it was such a legal thing, and that's what I had been told was the best thing. So I actually had a lot of material to draw on that was from the time, and also part of reporting the harassment was going back and finding all these text messages that I had sent to friends when it happened, and stuff like that. So
in a way,
there was less of memory influencing it, because it was so documented what had happened.
And in a way, the memory aspect comes in while you're documenting, you're realizing that you will have to remember this accurately. And that's a very strange experience to know that you're going to need to be accountable later.
Yeah, super weird. And I don't think I tend to write from my own experience still with future projects, upcoming projects, but nothing has been as documented as these events, just because of the nature of what it was.
And Carlos, you and I started to touch on memory with the dream of your friend. Is there anything else you'd like to say about the role of memory in your film?
I believe that we have the opportunity to rewrite memory in this kind of scenarios where the political system has permanently violent our rights and our existence, and we have the right as oppressed persons to rewrite the memory, not in a sense of lying, but yes, in a sense of trying to re-understand what is happening, what is happening to us. Sorry, and I believe that we have that possibility as a filmmakers, and I really believe that it's that exercise is very necessary to allow us to understand this these violences and these historical moments that we are part of it right now.
Yes, yeah, thank you. Both of your films, so interesting. I feel like I have many more questions that I jotted down that I'm really dying to ask you both, but I think our time is wrapping up soon. So could you tell us are you working on a new project now that you'd like to talk about? Carlos?
Well, I'm writing a movie. The name is, I believe in English, is like God and the Devil's Cumbia. Cumbia, it's a kind of music here in Latin America, and I'm writing right now that movie.
Well, excellent. We look forward to seeing that. Your film is so beautiful and poetic, and we were just so thrilled to have it in the festival. And Hazel, what are you working on now? I know you've got something in the wings.
Yeah, I'm shooting my thesis film, which is a short, in the first week of August. And then I have 2 features that are kind of in development, and that I'm revising the scripts for and sort of figuring out where they'll land. So yeah, busy.
Yeah, it sounds like you have your hands full. I hope we will be seeing more short films in Filmfest DC from both of you. That's, we are all about the short story here, and you both have expressed yourselves so beautifully in this format. Thank you so much for being with us. And for our audience, Short Stories 1 is available online June 4 through 8. Short Stories 2 is available online June 9 through 13. And the Q&As that we've recorded are available on our website, Filmfest DC, and also in the movie package. And thank you, Carlos and Hazel, for joining us. Thank you to our viewers at home. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.